Hello, and welcome to the IIRSM Wales branch webinar run by myself, Andy Prothero from PCR Global, and I'm fortunate enough to be the branch chair for the Wales branch as well. The webinar we're going to cover today is risk leadership, and that's the risks and opportunities of risk leadership. So I'm just going to move through the slides. I prepared some slides. They should work. There shouldn't be any problems with that. There you go for risk. And what we're going to cover. So the benefits of understanding leadership itself, business risk, risk management. So we're going to cover some recognized leadership styles, leadership through the eyes of ISO, and also some risks and opportunities. And as we go through, one of the key themes is the fact that risk leadership itself is wider than health and safety leadership. No doubt many who's interested in a webinar like this will be interested in health and safety leadership, but I'm just going to try and widen that if I can. The benefits of understanding leadership. If we think of it as a process with an input, an output, a system, and then an output. So if the input is us, so let's look at us. So whether we're a health and safety manager, security manager, or whatever we are, if we're a good person and a reliable colleague, understanding risk, that's threats and opportunities, and we're a team player. So what I'm trying to get across here is the input, understanding leadership. What are the benefits? And we can see multiple types of leadership, which we will cover in more detail. That leadership understanding. So what is the benefit of that? Well, we definitely become more self-aware, which we will cover self-awareness in a little bit more detail. We can recognize misleaders, and I think that's really important because we can spend a lot of time following the wrong type of people. We can waste time both professionally and personally. So we can see their input, leadership understanding, what are the benefits, who is worth following. We can meet our responsibilities as well, especially if we are business owners or departmental managers. Understanding leadership means we can meet our responsibilities. It can also help us learn how to influence. And let's be honest, that's what it is. That's what leadership is about influencing people. It's going to enable us, it's going to help enable us develop others into leaders. And that's really what we want to do, isn't it? And then the last one there is about being the best version of ourselves. So input, leadership understanding, and then what is that output? Well, like I said, we can recognize those sort of misleaders, and then we can start to give competent advice to the top management. So the benefits of understanding what leadership is, it's going to be individual to all of us, but certainly as we go through the various leadership styles and characteristics, we will certainly be able to identify why that list there is a benefit to us. Business risk. So we're just going to have a very quick look at business risk. We know in the world of health and safety, risk has a slightly different meaning, doesn't it? But the benefits of understanding business risk. And this is the definition of risk as per ISO 31000. That's the effect of uncertainty on objectives. Some people don't write the definition. Personally, I do, but I also firmly stick with the definition of risk that we would have if we were also discussing health and safety risk management, be it severity and likelihood. The reason why I think this is a benefit to us is because we can start putting risk in line with our objectives. And as we can see there, multiple categories, no matter what it is, whether that's health and safety, security, quality, project management, the effect of the uncertainty on our objectives. We say we're going to do something, but what is the risk? That's the uncertainty within it. We can then look across to the effect, and according to 31000, that is a deviation. So, but that can be positive, negative, or both, and can also lead to risks and opportunities. Remember, that's what this is about. It's the risks and opportunities in risk leadership. Uncertainty. If we were to focus on some of the definitions and some of the text within ISO 31010, actually IEC 31010, it breaks risk down. It breaks uncertainty down a little bit more to aleatory, epistemic, linguistic, and sort of decision uncertainty as well. So we can benefit by having more of an understanding. Aleatory, basically, if you roll a dice, you never know. You never know what's gonna happen there. You can't No matter how much research you do, you can't get any further. Epistemic, we can. If we research a little bit more, we're going to clear that uncertainty up. The linguistic uncertainty, that's a big one, isn't it? It's just not being clear when we're talking, when we're discussing, and then moving on. So that's the benefits of understanding business risk as well is important to us. And as it says at the bottom, usually expressed in sources, potential risks and opportunities. Sticking with that risk theme, risk leadership, the benefits of understanding risk. So it's wider than that health and safety risk understanding. So we're going to have a quick look at the risk management process here from ISO 31000. Certainly a process I lean heavily on with regards to whether I'm doing health and safety, security, auditing, or quality. So this is a 6-phase. It's not even a step because it's iterative. But if we look at the 6 elements, let's call them elements or components: communication and consultation. Consultation being defined on its requirements for feedback. Really important. The scope, the context, and the criteria. Understanding how big the situation is that we're talking about, where it stops, where it ends, the context, the internal, external, or the risk management context, and the risk management criteria. That's important. So once we define the scope, context, and criteria, it does enable us then to go forward with that risk assessment. Remember, risk leadership is wider than health and safety leadership, hence why I'm also viewing it through this lens. The risk assessment process, as per ISO 31000, is identification, analysis, and evaluation. And that evaluation is against the scope, the context, and the criteria. That's going to enable our risk treatment, regardless of context, health, safety, security, quality, environment, regardless of that. Number 5, recording and reporting. So again, if you're looking at this through a health and safety lens, look at what you are recording, look at who you are reporting it to. And then finally, that monitoring and review. Monitoring being different to review. We monitor as we're going along. We review more of an in-depth activity. We sit back and we review. So it's really good for us to have an understanding of business risk, the definition of risk, and the risk management process in order for us to make our way towards being efficient at risk leadership or leading in risk. It's not just focusing on that health and safety risk management. It's wider than that. And the yellow arrows there indicate that it is an iterative process. So the benefit of understanding risk management. We looked at the benefit of understanding leadership. So the benefit of understanding risk management, slightly different now. We're into risk now, and we're looking at ISO 31000 as we've just done. We've now got that risk management understanding, so we can recognize those business risks. We can see threats and opportunities on a wider scale within the organization, not just health and safety. And having that understanding helps us communicate our plan. It helps us actually go to senior management. We can talk on their level. We understand their language, because it could be a different language if we think at the strategic level within the organization. So when we do have a deeper understanding of risk management, as we're saying, I think helping us communicate our plan, I think that's a really important element of this. And we've just seen that sort of simple process as well, where we have that risk management understanding, the 6 components of the risk management process as per 31000. The final one I've got there, it helps us to link health and safety with the concepts of risk, business continuity, crisis, and organizational resilience as well. This is wider than health and safety risk management. I can't emphasize that enough. So again, the input, risk management understanding, and then on to the output. If we look at that output, this time we're looking at that organizational resilience, because what we've done, we've widened our understanding. By understanding risk, business risk, it's going to make us automatically talk about business continuity. We're going to talk about crisis management, themselves different but overlapping concepts. And there's a British standard for that, as I put there, 65,000. But very similar, again, that is going to lead us to be able to give that better, more competent advice, widen our understanding, because we're looking at threat as a wrong risk as a whole, which is both opportunity and threat. So that's the benefit of understanding risk management. So where does this risk management fit in? You know, people talk about health and safety risk management. The more and more you go on LinkedIn now, if somebody's into health and safety, they will call themselves a risk manager. They will say, you will see on profiles, you will see in discussions, you will see on CVs. Yeah, I think it's an interesting area, because the majority of health and safety practitioners I know who call themselves risk managers, they don't understand business continuity. They don't understand crisis management. They don't understand the difference. So what I'm saying here is we should widen our understanding and lead on risk, not just on safety and health. If we lead on risk, it will enable us it will force us, it's going to twist our arm to understand these other concepts. So where does risk management fit into this? So we've got our health and safety there. We can see policy planning, communicating, consulting. And I've just using a 45,001 card then to give us a bit of a focal point. It's got an ISO, as we know. Risk management itself, it's got an ISO, as we know. That can lead into business continuity. It's got an ISO, as we may know. The difference with that business continuity, it's got 22301, recovery, time objectives, maximum permitted, tolerable downtimes. So if somebody in the world of sort of health and safety that we're dealing with says they have they undertake business continuity, ask them about timelines. If you haven't got a timeline, you haven't got any type of business continuity plan. You haven't got an impact analysis. You haven't got a decent plan. And then, as we can see, risk and threat assessment, and then exercise and testing. So health and safety, where's it fitting in? So we can see our safety, then we've got the wider context of the business, because we've also got crisis management. Then that comes with 7 principles, 4 frameworks, and 7 processes. That's in the standard 22361, and it is a guideline, but it does come with an ISO as well. What are we saying? So we can see horizon scanning, we can see business continuity, i.e. we're coming off the rails, and then crisis management, that really is that little bit of carnage. And as we can see, I'm just showing there, director jailed for exposure, for exposing employees. So we're looking at that horizon scanning. So our health and safety is linked to that horizon scanning. Really, really important there. Once we start doing that horizon scanning, thinking about the principles, actually, it's looking back where we currently are and looking to the future. It's not just looking to the future, because that's going to enable us to focus on the health and safety policy and the all-important risk assessment. All roads lead back to the risk assessment. So where does risk management fit in? We can see health and safety. We've got horizon scanning coming off the rails, carnage once we get to that crisis management element. But certainly understanding risk management, where that fits in, understanding where health and safety fits into risk management, it's going to widen our appreciation of the organization. And then it's going to help us then focus on those areas that we may need to lead in. And I've just put another slide in there, that all-important internal audit. We could call it audit leadership. We can add these words onto everything. There's many definitions, as we know, but it's really, really important to focus and understand whatever we are doing, we should be reviewing what we are doing. I've just put it down for the management regs there, as we know in the health and safety world, but it is ultimately linked, that monitor and review. We've seen that also in 31,000 earlier on. Moving on now, leadership and management, and then leadership styles. Leadership and management, it is a huge, huge subject. It's obviously too big for this session, but a lot of people will say, what's the difference between a leader and a manager? And Salford University, they talk about a manager's primary responsibilities to plan, organize, and control resources. They focus on managing people, again, according to the University of Salford. They're then going to say, but that leadership role is to motivate and to inspire people to achieve a common goal. So is it all about charisma? Is it all about setting a clear vision? Well, certainly that's part of being leadership, But when we go of leadership, I should say, but when we start to look at the Institute of Leadership's five dimensions and 49 components, we will also see more functional areas of leadership. Effective leadership is marked by traits such as charisma, empathy, strategic thinking. There we go again. Certainly, we can see that not everybody is charismatic, as we know. So that, and that's my, and I haven't got an issue with this. I believe in this. It is right. But there is room for uncharismatic leaders as well. There's room for functional leaders. And that's your transactional leadership, which we shall have a look at in a moment. It's more like management leadership. They're going to say there is that overlap, but a manager tends to focus on controlling resources. I'm not really going to disagree with that, but I am also going to say once we start looking at the Institute of Leadership, we will hopefully have a broader understanding. The functions of management. So we're talking about risk leadership. What about management? Fayol, back in the day, the French mining engineer, he came up with what he had as his 5 functions of management. Now, many management gurus out there as well who will come up with various different takes on this. I like to use this because it is one of the earliest ones. So planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. And some of those words aren't that, as we know, they're not that popular anymore. Directing, is that too harsh? Controlling, is that too harsh? It's not about control as in controlling people. That's actually about measuring and monitoring and making sure the work is getting done. So controlling in a different aspect. But we can see there are management actions. There's nothing in there about charisma. There's nothing in there about vision. That is an action. You are doing something. Onto some styles, some leadership styles. So if we think top management, and then we start looking at, with me, if we think of health and safety, and we think, let's have a look at some leadership styles. What I've put there is, unlike management, leadership is in the thoughts and the feelings of the beholders. That's certainly what I think anyway. I tend to think like that. Think nobody, in my opinion, is better at understanding what a leader is than myself and everybody on this call. You would all have had a good boss. You'd have all have had a bad boss. You certainly can remember your good and bad teachers. So whether they were good at what they were doing in terms of leading, how they made us feel, was completely up to us. So whilst it is good that we have multiple various styles, we must remember as well that we are the judge of the leader. Transformational leadership there. This, when I started looking into sort of leadership myself, this was the type of leader I sort of wanted to become. When you look at that, you're transforming people, you're focusing on people, you're inspiring people, you're stimulating people to study more, to do more, and you're also giving them that individual consideration, the 4 I's. Transactional, as I've got there, a bit of money and a carrot, not so much a carrot and a stick, but this is also known as managerial leadership. So not so much charisma again. This is about getting something done. It's about rewards and management by exception. By exception, i.e. you leaving people to manage themselves if they are ready to undertake that management position or to get that task done. But ultimately, as it says at the bottom, managers give in to receive there. Servant leadership. If you watch the British Army doctrine, the philosophy, the doctrine, the leadership on YouTube, you will hear them talking about servant leadership, and they say they've added that. They've added that in the last couple of years. So servant leadership, basically, you are really focusing on the individual there, others before you, acknowledging their perspectives, listening, empathy, and basically you are serving to lead. That is what you are doing. Situational leadership. So we now are up to our 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth one, situational leadership. Again, I think this is, when all the leadership training that I'm delivering at the moment, and you're talking to people who are longer in the tuth-in positions, they will say, when I ask what style, they'll say, well, it depends on the situation. And that really is what this is. If there's anything to learn about understanding leadership, it is about teaching to your audience. So situational leadership, it goes through telling to selling to participating to delegating. You can see there's a gradual increase there to leaving that follower or that person undertake the task on their own. And as states there, autocratic, laissez-faire, democrat. I'm just adding those in as other styles because there's lots and lots of styles up to there, out there that people talk about. And you basically are developing that individual and teaching to your audience. The last one I've got up there is the dimensions of leadership from the Institute of Leadership. They've got those 5 dimensions, which is authenticity, vision, achievement, ownership, and collaboration. And where we can see the 8 elements there, they are components. And we're going to have a good look at this in more detail on the next slide. But this really is, when you look at it, it is a bit of a journey. It's about the leadership is a journey. Do people like us? Are we getting thumbs up, thumbs down? And are we doing that sort of reflection? So I really do think the dimensions of leadership from the Institute of Leadership is something really good for us to explore. And that's what we're going to have a look at now. So authenticity, as we said, vision, achievement, we got ownership, and also collaboration. And when we look deeper into there, again, we can see lots more of those components, which take us up to 49 in number. Now, I'm not going to go through each and every one of them, but I'm going to put some red arrows up there so we can just focus. Self-awareness, for me, that really is what leadership is. It's about self-awareness, self-regulation. If we're self-aware and we understand risk on a wider concept, then we're on a win-win situation. It's really, really important. So self-awareness, then I've aligned challenging. I get called challenging quite regular, and I'm quite happy with being challenging because I challenge with respect. And I think that's important. I'm not going to go through all of the other ones as we go through, but challenging, I think, is a good way to look at it. So I'm not saying you're not agreeable, but you are willing to basically say, hang on, can I hold it there? Why are you doing it that way? I then highlighted leading change because that's really linked to risk management. Change management is risk management. If you don't undertake some type of risk analysis on change in your organization, you are going to walk into a storm, for want of a better word. So we can see here where that leadership is now hand in hand with risk management. It's not just health and safety. Innovating, creating an innovation, that is a part of risk management, again, as per 31,000. It's about innovation, moving forward. Risks and opportunities, threats and opportunities, taking that punt, but planning it out. That is risk. And then the healthy workplace, which we all recognize. Moving into understanding HR. Yes, we've definitely broadened our understanding now. Okay, I keep on going back to health and safety, of course, but health and safety, as important as it is, of course it is, it's only linked to people. If we take people out the workplace, there is no health and safety. So we must understand HR. So if you're a good leader, you understand human resource management, you understand the laws that come with it. All of a sudden now we're better at managing risk in the workplace. And developing talent. So this is specific now, isn't it? You are, even it says coach in there, you are growing people, which is really why I like these 5 dimensions. Moving on to ownership. Managing upwards. That is something we have to do quite regular, isn't it? Especially if you're a consultant and you're working with clients, you really want to manage upwards. That is about influencing again. So leadership, getting other people to do what you want them to do or what the task requires them to do, not by a stick, by influencing them to do it. So managing upwards, I thought, was worthy of pointing out. And I put the arrow in between the both of them there for learning and personal brand. 5 dimensions, 49 components. The Institute of Risk Management, there are Institute of Leadership, and we can see there's lots, but learning, personal development. I think that is a really important leadership trait. We have to learn not just about ourselves, but about all the other disciplines that's out there as well. So risk, leadership, learning about organizational resilience, business continuity, crisis management, The learning should never end. It should never end. And then moving on to personal brand. Again, I think that's really important. You're taking ownership of everything you do. I work with many, many people across different organizations, and whether they take ownership is an interesting subject. That's dependent from person to person. And then moving into collaboration, we've got leading projects. So this is, again, that more functional leadership, isn't it? You're actually getting things done. So you could be leading by example, pushing things across the line. Really important, but into many other different skill sets now. We're out of that health and safety, of course. We're potentially into project management. So collaboration, risk leadership. Respecting different cultures. That's one of the principles of ISO 31000 risk management as well. That is really important. If we don't respect different cultures, then our tasks, our jobs, our programs, our projects, how we treat people in work, that is going to, it's going to suffer. It's not good. And that just isn't good in any shape, way or form, is it? Managing meetings, highlighting that one again, it's that functional piece. To be a leader, to manage a meeting, to lead on projects. This is different. This is not, this is different. It is functional, but it's certainly not charisma. And I've just put in there, PowerPoint's been a bit slow for some reason. I've just put in there, just reminding us that achievement, it is wider. Okay, sorry, the healthy workplace, it's wider than just health and safety leadership. Why do people listen to us? Good grief. If we can find out the answer to that, we'd all be rich people, wouldn't we? But let's have a look at the 6 bases of power. Positional power and personal power. Always interesting when we do the CITB leadership training, when we get the guys in a room and we ask them, so why do people listen to you? Legitimate power, you're the boss. Okay, so you've got that authority. Coercive power, potentially a punisher. Okay, so you can make people comply, so people may be listening to you because of that. That carrot, think about that. You can reward or you can take rewards away. So we've got 3 so far. Why do people listen to us? Yeah, but I just want you to listen to me because I'm nice. But ultimately, we've got to look a little bit deeper. And French and Raven, they talk about these 6 bases of power. Raven's in blue there because they've added one on, which is information, which you can have a look at in a minute. So personal power. We've moved from positions to people power, personal power. But this is slightly negative. You could look at this negative. That is the knowledge hoarder. Power comes from having information others want or need. Think about that. I've met many a person who keeps that information tight to their chest. They don't want you to have it because you might be a bit of a young thruster and you're probably going to overtake them in a couple of years. They want to keep it to their chest. In the world of security, sometimes you want to keep information to your chest. But that's not what this is about. Information. You've got to go to that person because they've got the information. That's the one that Raven added on, I believe. Expert power. Don't we all want to be the special one? Power comes from superior skill or knowledge. So why do people listen to us? Well, because I know what I'm talking about. That's great. That's fantastic. And you don't need any type of position. It's just what you know and what you do. And then leading into the last one, referent power. I don't really understand the word, if I'm honest. I've Googled it a million times, but I do know what it means. Referent power is about being that loved one. So people admire you, they like you, you're respected by others, and they're happy to come to you. We're thinking about the halo effect when you think about things like this. You'll see the halo effect, you've got the horns effect, and basically the halo effect, we tend to put halos on people who aren't really worth it. The legend, what did he do? He can drink 10 pints, he's a legend. Well, hang on. I think that word legend is used a little bit more, a little bit overused, as we know. But why do you follow people? Do you follow them because they are admired? But be careful of that one. We now go into the leadership continuum. This is very much linked to that situational leadership when we go in through the telling and selling and involving people. That's in red. We're going to move across the leadership continuum. So we can see right down this end, the manager is deciding what he's having to do. Then the manager is selling their idea. Then they are suggesting. So you're involving people. And as we move up the continuum, now we've got consultants. You're involving people. Then we've got join in. So yeah, okay, join in. You can make a decision as well. And then we got delegation, okay? You are giving people sometimes enough rope to hang themselves, I suppose, but ultimately you are putting limits in and you are happy for people to go away. You're delegating, or moving on, then you are completely abdicating. As you can see there, you are allowing full freedom. So we've gone the continuum. And out of everything, I think, for myself, that I've learned since I've been focusing on leadership, I think this is one of the most important things to understand. Not everybody is at the right stage to be left on their own. When we talk about autocratic, democratic, and laissez-faire, not everybody is at that level. And it's unfortunate that some people find themselves, in situations and sometimes responsible or even accountable for things when they're actually not. They haven't been given the tools that they need for the job. So I do like this concept. We're moving from autocratic, manager-centered leadership. We're moving up to democratic, where that's subordinated. You are giving it to them. You are giving it to them. And as we can see in that last slide, using authority or giving freedom. And let's be honest, where we want to be up here, don't we? We want to be empowering our staff, our colleagues, our family even, isn't it? We want to be pouring water on them and making them grow. Really important to understand that. What makes a great leader? Well, again, I think what I said earlier on, and I really mean this, it's completely up to us. It's up to us. Leadership is in the eye of the beholder, like risk and like beauty as well. But what others do say, what makes a great leader? I do like this one by John Quincy Adams. If your actions inspire others to dream more, to learn more, to do more, and to become more, you are a leader. And I think that is absolutely fantastic, because even functional leadership we can find in here if your actions inspire people to do more. So could just be an activity, isn't it? But if you are inspiring people to learn more, there we go. We're back to that transformational, the 4 I's: inspirational, motivation, intellectual, stimulation. You're trying to turn people, you are transforming them into leaders. That's what we should be trying to do. And we should be trying to do that in risk leadership, widening everybody's understanding of risk, and then adopting our approach so we are actually empowering those people to become leaders themselves. That's what the British military do, and it really works. I don't think we can go very far without talking about emotional intelligence. I think this is a phenomenal concept. What gets said here is the most effective leaders are alike in one crucial way. They all have a high degree of what has become known emotional intelligence. Without it, a person can have the best training in the world, an incisive analytical mind, and an endless supply of smart ideas, but she still won't make a great leader. That's really important. So they're saying here, or Goleman is saying, well, that emotional intelligence. And again, I think this is one of the concepts that I get a lot of traction with when we're teaching supervisors leadership training. Once the girls start to understand this, they can recognize this within themselves. And I think this is really important, especially as somebody who left school with no qualifications, certainly didn't have any sort of intelligence or qualifications that other people you could recognize on a bit of paper. Done all mine later on. But I know I've always had emotional intelligence, and I know that. Self-awareness, you recognize and understand your own emotions, your strengths, your limitations, and you learn from your interactions with others. I am like an absolute sponge. The best people I learn from are the people I don't like. I always learn how not to be like others. Okay, self-regulation. You can control that emotion. You've got awareness, but also self-regulation. This is one of those aspects of emotional intelligence, according to Goleman. You can inhibit your impulse and you can suspend your judgment. That is not easy. I have struggled with that over time. I don't know whether that's, I'm not going to say my military background, I don't know, but ultimately I can be quite straight. And I do have to regulate myself sometimes, but I'm comfortable with that. I'm never rude. Well, I don't think I'm rude. Internal motivation, so a part of emotional intelligence. Passion to work for internal rewards rather than external. So that's intrinsic versus extrinsic, isn't it? If we are motivated, that is a massive word in the workplace, isn't it? And why aren't people motivated? And if you start calling people lazy, then people are going to say, yeah, but why are they lazy? And I get it. Okay, so why aren't they motivated? And I get that as well. But ultimately, we are not all the same. We are not the same. We can't accept that we are all the same. Once we know we're not all the same, we will know not all of us are going to have the same passion. Not all of us are going to have the same motivation. Not all of us. We're just going to be different. What we have to do as good leaders is recognize in others, whether their lack of motivation is anything that we can do, if it's something we can do something about. You can lead some horses to water, you can't make them drink, and you can't even get some horses down to the stream. So I'm learning. Empathy. I think I like this little emoji when I put that on there. You understand the emotional makeup of others and treat them according to their emotional reactions. You see things from another perspective. Really important again, because we know not everybody we know has empathy. And that's not because some of the people we know aren't nice people. They may have, it might be in their characteristic, it might be in their personality, it might be in their DNA. They just can't see that. They can't read the room. We have to appreciate that and not jump up and down and just thinking they're being ignorant. It's really, really important. And that's the same with the social skills. So you're proficient at managing relationships and building networks. Wow. If we listen to Goldman, we've got to be some type of special person, haven't we, to be a good leader. And I know many people without social skills. That's my dog coming in. We'll sit down for them. I know many people who haven't got social skills, and I know that, but they are really good leaders. They're more functional. They get things done. And that's why I will call into question when people just think leadership is about charisma. Risk, leadership, and ISO. So we've talked about risk. We've talked about sort of leadership and the benefits of understanding business risk, the benefits of understanding leadership. Where does that come into ISO? Because all of a sudden now somebody's going to give us a document and say, there you are, go and audit leadership over there, which is, I think, is quite useful, actually. Within all of the management system standards, the MSSs that follow the harmonized structure, we're going to have clause 5, which is leadership and worker participation. This is where that's going to give us the opportunity to audit leadership. We're not auditing them on their charisma. We're not auditing them on anything to do with what we've just said, emotional intelligence. This is by the book, tick, tick, tick. Do they have the policy? How effective is the policy? Have they arranged organizational roles, responsibilities, and authorities? Again, we can tick that. If we haven't got arrangements, if people don't know what they're doing, then ultimately we can give them a big fat Freddy against 5.3 for their leadership. We're not having a pop at them as individuals. We're just saying you're not meeting the standard. Consultation and participation of workers, really important. If you are a good leader, and in this standard, leadership and worker participation, ISO 45001 is the only mainstream standard that adds that in, because that's what this standard means. Leadership and health and safety leadership in particular is about that participation. Leadership and commitment gets broken down. We'll have a look at that. But policy, making sure the roles and responsibilities are in place, and making sure we've got that feedback mechanism. Go back to 31,000. We were talking about communication and consultation. Consultation being getting that feedback. There is a vast difference. So where can we see the output of leadership? We've just looked at the number of those. Basically, this is what ISO tells us. Okay, some of them are easy to pick up. Some of them we've got to read between the lines more. But ultimately, if top management is demonstrating they're taking responsibility, again, you've got to dig in to find that. But ensuring the policy and objectives, okay? So you haven't set objectives, then ultimately you're not adhering to the requirements of this standard. So we can push on those objectives. Remember, where does ISO meet leadership? The integration of the management system, everybody will say it's integrated. Very rarely it is truly integrated. And sometimes it's integrated just by chance. So another sort of fluffy one to look for, and you haven't got much time when you're doing auditing either. Ensuring the resources. Now, that's an easy one, isn't it? You don't have the right resources, people, equipment, materials, timelines, timings, well, you've failed the leadership clause. So I do think that looking at leadership through the eyes of ISO is very beneficial, because let's be honest, if people aren't trained or there's no resources in place, that's generally where the issues are. And then communicating the effectiveness and of the management system to others. Next page, let's have a quick look on the next one. Ensuring the management system achieves its objectives, wide. Directing and supporting people, promoting continual improvement, wide. Supporting other roles and their leadership, developing, leading and promoting a culture that supports the intended outcomes. I mean, that's really important. I've never seen an internal audit that's raised a finding against the senior leadership team for having a dodgy culture. Yeah, that'll be a first. Protecting workers from reprisals, that is critical. We know there's a lot getting said about psychological safety. We know psychological safety is a good thing. We know the ability to report is a good thing. How you measure that, I think, is a slightly different thing. Consultation again. Okay, moving on. Just check in time 1842. So threats and opportunities. Risk leadership, threats and opportunities. So the health and safety policy, this is both an output of leadership and a massive opportunity for risk leadership as well. If the health and safety policy isn't in place, then without shadow of a doubt, we know people can be exposed to ill health. Not many people really understand the health and safety policy in depth. We're looking for that organizational resilience. Top management is responsible for making that. That leads across. And what we're going to look at then, it does not matter what organization shouldn't say that, what industry you're in, it's all the same. That policy needs to be robust. And the output of that policy is really important. It is the output of leadership and it's an opportunity. There's the policy. Statement of intent, it's got 3 areas. That competent advice, straight away critical. If you don't have competent advice, then ultimately your leadership output has failed there. So we have an opportunity to ensure we get it. Same as the risk assessment. If your policy isn't dictating, and that's probably the right word, isn't supporting, pushing, making sure you've got robust risk assessment methodology and risk assessments, then that output is an issue, isn't it? We haven't got the output. Really important. Oh, your system has run out of application memory. Bear with me. Okay. It's asking me to quit my PowerPoint. Not exactly what I wanted, but it looks like I'm going to have to. So I'm going to force quit my PowerPoint and then start again. Bear with me. Or have I got away with it? No, I haven't got away with it. Okay. Bear with me. Can you hear me there, Julie?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, there's an issue, but bear with.
Is there anything else you could close down, maybe?
No, I've got everything closed out. We're okay for timings, so just bear with, and I shall. Have you still got my screen?
No.
Okay.
I just have you at the moment, and you're pixelating a little. Maybe try turning your camera off. That might reduce the power.
Bear with me.
Or I can turn your camera off if
you could, that'd be great. You can still hear me though, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
So we were looking at the health and safety policy there. We're looking at the health and safety policy as an output. And what we were doing, we were just going through all the elements, or the majority of elements within a policy. And we were looking at where the output matches leadership. And the slides would have gone on then, bear with me, the slides would have gone on to show I'm just going to try and open it again.
I was going to say, I've turned your camera off, so it might free up some memory to share your screen again.
Bear with me. Yeah, and I made sure I shut everything down as well and restarted before we kicked off. There we are. No plan survives first contact, as they say. It's all about what you do with it when it goes wrong, isn't it?
Whilst you're tinkering, a number of members have asked if you're happy to share a copy of your presentation.
Oh, absolutely. It comes at a cost, and the cost is being nice to people. Absolutely.
Yeah. Excellent. I'll pop that out to all the attendees after the webinar if you want to drop it across to me.
Yeah, for definite. Right. Okay. I'm now going to get back on track. And it's really, really important where I was as well. Okay, 2 seconds. There you go. Threats and opportunities. Big old slide, that.
I can't see your screen as just yet, or
yeah,
you're not
I'm
sharing yet.
just not sharing yet.
Ah.
Bear with me. I'm going to share now. Okay, bear with. Zoom, share screen, desktop 1. I'm going to go for this. Okay. Tell me when you can see. Can you see yourself there?
I can see. There we go. I can see your whole screen, but hopefully nothing will pop up.
That's great. You can see that?
Yes, I can see your toolbar as well, but if you've closed everything down, it shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, that's not a worry. Okay, so I'm going to fire through this. Like, there you go. So we're moving on what we were saying, but how can we check the output of that leadership? And the policy is a fantastic place to start. Have we got competent advice? Is the risk assessment in place? Consultation, as mentioned in 45 earlier on. Training. Are we doing the right training? If you're looking at CDM, do we know all the construction law duties? Are we monitoring contractor due diligence, incident investigation, health surveillance? Absolutely critical. How can we separate this policy from understanding the policy to risk management across the business? We can't. We can see clearly that by undertaking all of this, we are protecting the organization. The emergency response plan, a really good place to check for leadership. A really good place to check for leadership. Not many people have actually tested their response plan. I mean, let's be truthful about that. Very rare, actually. Equipment, moving on to working at height. So all of these hazards, no matter what they are, it's a really good place to check for leadership, isn't it? And then that leads us in that competent advice. If you haven't got it inside, go outside to get it. It is important. All roads lead back to that risk assessment. That's where risk assessment meets leadership. That's where auditing, actually auditing back to that monitor and review like we looked at earlier on. For all of these elements, this is an output of leadership. There is an opportunity if we are weak in any of these areas. And then we just ensure we have that internal audit to just check that we are on the right path. Time check, 1849. Accidental managers, so risks and opportunities. A lot gets said about accidental managers. And if we look at this article from People Management, not that long ago, accidental managers without proper leadership training are contributing to almost 1 in 3 workers walking out. I don't know whether that's true. That's the truth. But I do know what an accidental manager is because I've been an accidental manager for many years. So accidental managers, we don't have that training. We don't understand leadership concepts. We don't understand the difference between leadership and management. We haven't got to be fully au fait with the 49 components of the 5 dimensions from the Institute of Leadership: transactional, transformational, laissez-faire, demo. We haven't got to be all of that. But what I have found, and this is without a shadow of a doubt, when you have an accidental manager, they're a manager for a reason. For some reason you've put them there for that reason. Just sprinkle a little bit of training on top. Stop setting them up to fail. Give them the understanding. And you really will empower accidental managers to be the best accidental managers out there. So where are our opportunities for us? That's us listening to this webinar. Where are our opportunities to show risk leadership? Well, what we can do, and this is just going to commenting back on the slides, we can show our teams and our guys the benefits of understanding leadership. Like I just said, we haven't got to understand it verbatim. We haven't got to understand who said what and when they said it. But understanding how leadership differs from management is really worth it. The benefits of understanding risk management. So that's leadership and risk management. This is what we can do. We can inform our guys about the different types of leadership styles. Again, sprinkle some magic on them. They'll be far better than what you ever thought they could be. Where does that risk management fit in? Just explain to them that risk leadership is wider than health and safety leadership. It's wider. Just explaining to our supervisors that them and us and everybody else around them, we're all at different stages of readiness in no matter what context we are talking about. And because we are, Once we can start appreciating that, none of us are the finished article. One of the best things I ever read and understood was that leadership continuum, and then really take that into my own sort of activities. We can show risk leadership by ensuring that our health and safety policy, the output shows leadership, and we have boxed off all the areas that we talk. If we want to change health and safety policy with security policy, we can. We can have the 3 sections, much like we've got, but in a health and safety policy, but we can have that for security. And getting across to the teams, understanding that leadership, emotional intelligence. Not everybody has to be charismatic to be a good leader. Functional leadership massively exists. Getting project plans across the line. So that's it. What did we cover? We covered the benefits of understanding leadership, business, risk, and risk management. We looked at some recognized leadership styles. There are many more out there. People will talk about visual, felt leadership. There's lots and lots and lots and lots. Leadership through the lens of ISO. We looked at that, whereas like 45,001, we got those four sub-elements to clause 5 that we can pick on. Number 1 was quite fluffy, isn't it? But the other ones weren't. It was communication, consultation. It was making sure we got a good policy in place. And we also looked at some risks and opportunities, all time hopefully considering that risk leadership is wider than health and safety leadership. And that's me coming to the end. Certainly leadership, what I believe, is unlike management in that it's in the thoughts and the eyes of the beholders. I've met many leader in their own lunch break, a leader on LinkedIn, and there's many leaders at awards parties saying, look how good we've done. But actually it was the guys on the ground who were doing the good stuff. That's the truth of it. So how others feel is up to us. It's up to us to take anything from what this, but if we want to be certainly the best version of ourselves, we should need to understand threats and opportunities, be a team player. And it is really beneficial for us to understand leadership is impossible without followership. And whether that's transformational, transactional, situation, servant, there's many of them. And I really try to emphasize the dimensions of leadership, the 5 dimensions from the Institute of Leadership themselves. Leadership's got no rank, no followers, no leadership. Thank you very much. Thanks for sticking with me while I had that sticky moment there. It's a good job I know my slides. And that is it. Thank you very much.
Andy, if you'd like to stop sharing, I can send you a camera request and for the questions. I've got some in chat and you've got 3 in Q&A as well. Oh, there we go. You've started your video.
Wonderful. Apologies about that then, guys. Right, okay. I can see we've got one from Michelle. Is that right? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, fab. I hope Michelle's happy with me reading it out. As a health and safety professional, I've joined this to understand the difference and how I can be more risk savvy. I want to know how I then influence the business continuity side, which doesn't sit with safety. Really, really important. And Michelle, you are at the, what's the word? Behest, is that the right word? I don't know, but it's up to the organization. How can you do it? Of course you can do it. You can do it by understanding the 4 parts of business continuity. That's the impact analysis, the continuity plan, the exercise and testing, and the risk and threat assessment. You can certainly learn and understand about those areas, but it really is up to the organization if they're going to let you sort of influence that. I think some of the most sort of progressive or professional, is that the right word? Better, weak word, but yeah, some of the better organizations, safety has that seat at the top box, and then we can get our point across and be included in those business impact analysis. Because at the end of the day, if you have a death on site, that's a business disruption. We were with Vinci last week doing some really good stuff, and it's about certainly health and safety matters. And that's why, Michelle, I'm trying to say that risk leadership, understanding risk, it can help us get a seat at the top table. And I hope that answers. More than willing to jump on and have a brew as well. We got one from Paul. Hi, Andy. Do you agree with Simon Sinek who believes that leadership isn't limited to formal roles. He states that you don't need to be absolutely, and to start by leading within your team, absolutely all of that, all of the above, mate, without a shadow of a doubt. I was a born leader, absolutely guarantee it. However, I might not have been very good at it, but I was a born leader. And what do I mean? If nobody puts their hands up, I will put my hand up. And leadership has got no rank. Does not mean I would have been any good at what I was trying to do, but I would have been the one mouthing off saying, okay, if nobody's going to do it, I'll do it. I certainly agree with that, mate. And I think there's a lot to be said about giving that leadership training, leadership, not management, leadership training to supervisors so they understand the differences. And certainly when I started studying leadership, I started studying that through decision making when I got sort of blown up for the last time in Iraq and thought, why on earth? And I started asking myself, why were people making those decisions? And then it just led me into health and safety and led me into understanding risk. Certainly do believe me, it's not limited to formal roles. And the other thing I didn't mention in there, and that is what I tend to say a lot, and I really mean this as well, that managers are appointed by the company into those formal roles. Leaders are appointed by the people. That's as far as I really do believe that. You can be a great manager, go to the pub and nobody wants to sit with you. Or you can just be a really good person who gets on with your job. Everybody respects you. You've got that personal power. Remember, what you're talking about there is the difference between positional and personal power. So absolutely. And then we've got Phil, does Andy recommend a course, further CPD for leadership and personal growth? Phil, there's loads of courses out there, mate. When I started, it was just getting involved and getting on the website of the Institute of Leadership. There's a lot of stuff in there. I'm obviously not here to promote certain courses, but CITB as a whole across of the UK at the minute, they have a lot of leadership courses going on, and there are multiple providers building those courses. And if we were to look at those courses, they're about half day, 1 day, and 2 day, and they are good. They are good. Organizations get the opportunity to put their own content into them, put their own content in it, which is really good. What I would always recommend, and what we're finding though, is get to the company, understand the company first. This stuff should never be off the shelf. And there's certainly a few guidance that we've given to companies. No, you don't need the 2 day, or you're going to lose people, because we can't sort of belt feed a lot of this theory into the minds of people who are just not ready. They're not going back to that situational leadership on that continuum. They're just not ready yet.
I think that's all the questions, Andy, but we've got lots of, there's just one question come in, but I'll just give you the feedback because there's some really good feedback. Many thanks, Andy, for an interesting, informative presentation. Another one from West Midlands branch, thank you. Chris says, brilliant presentation, thank you. I agree with your point. I worked in health and safety for 20 plus years before moving into risk management. Opened my eyes and has broadened my understanding of risk enormously.
Fantastic.
And 3 or 4 wonderful session. Thanks very much. Very interesting. Thank you. And wonderful. Then we've just got one more question come in as well.
I'm just looking at that from Chris. Could I recommend excellent strategic leadership apprenticeship from Corndall? I haven't seen that, Chris, myself. Mate. I'll definitely have a look at that. Great.
So that's all the questions. And thank you for staying so calm when it all went wrong.
Oh, listen, there's something called crisis leadership. If you look at the ISOs and you start reading about crisis leadership, that's different type of leadership in itself. And basically, I think somebody said once, if you can keep your head while all those around you are losing theirs, and then I think as Joan Rivers says, you quite possibly don't understand the situation, but that's a different take on
that. That's why I always try and stay calm when I'm running webinars, because if I get stressed, speakers are going to get twice as stressed.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm looking at Kaja. Yeah, thank you, Andy, for presenting. I believe the leadership character is not limited with one character. Exactly. Leadership character we changed. Absolutely. I fully agree with what Kaja has just said there. And that is situational leadership. That's what's being, that is what you're linking that to there, Kaja. I fully agree with you. And that's because not everybody is at the right level. They're not at the right level sometimes to lead or take the understanding in the situation. So fully agree. I think that's it.
I think it is. Yeah, I think that's everything now, if you want to do your closing.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much for everybody who's joined. It's an absolute pleasure for myself being with IIRSM and the team that we've got. We've got a lot to look forward to as what we're doing. Some fantastic support. The next meeting or webinar we've got is the 3rd of July, and it's going to be. I'm just stroking the dog. It's going to be a really relaxed webinar. We're not going to put out quite yet what the agenda is because it's going to be very loose, but it is going to be a more of a relaxed, see who joins. We'll put some topics forward and it will be more of a discussion. So we'll be hopefully looking to turn up with a brew and be able to ask as many questions as we can. And that will be myself and the rest of the IIRSM team, the committee team will be on there. We've got a lot of knowledgeable people to be able to answer any questions. And if we can't answer the questions, we will certainly signpost you to where you need to go. So thank you very much. And thank you very much, Julie.
You're welcome.
There we are.
Oh, there we go. The star of the show.
There we are. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Good night or good
Bye-bye.
afternoon, everyone, wherever you are in the world. See you next time. Bye.